if I gave it all.
So welcome back, everyone. I have with me, and I'm so excited about having him on, David Fisher. He's the CEO of Landmark Capital. Welcome to the show. You've been on the show many, many times, but I always ask you to tell a little bit about yourself because it's so important. You're so informative, and I want them to hear a little bit about you. Go ahead.
I've been in the precious metal industry for 24 years now, and I'm the CEO of Landmark Capital. And what we do is we believe in education. We help facilitate the purchase of precious metals, but, anybody can sell gold or silver. A monkey could do that. I'm not insinuating about myself or any of the people in the industry, but what I'm saying is it's important that you get an education and you come up with a strategy that is tailor-made, and that's where we are so different from the rest of the industry. You also can roll over your IRA into physical gold and silver. A lot of people didn't understand that you can do that. You can go a step further than that and take physical possession without a tax liability. A lot of people don't understand how that works out in a thing called a self-directed IRA, but how we're separated from most of the industry in that, besides the obvious that we educate, and we have a whole white paper just on that topic alone, is when you go to actually set up the fee structure of it, set up the structure, the legal side of it, because it's done legally by a lawyer. We work with a lawyer that I personally worked with over the last 5 years, that he charges $350 if you're in state Arizona, $385 if you're out of state of Arizona, because we're a national gold company. And my competitors are somewhere between $995 on up to almost $2,000 in their legal structure fees. So we're very cost effective and competitive from the standpoint of not just the purchase of the metals, but in addition to that, the legal structure fee to accomplish this.
Well, the other thing that I love about you too is that you're all about information. You're not here to scare anyone in any way. It's not a scare tactic in any way. You also do believe that everybody should diversify their money for sure, and that's what it's all about, is educating them on what you have learned. And you've been on radio, you've been on my show, you've got a lot of other shows, you had your own show. I think you also have a podcast that we've never talked about. We should talk about that too. So there's a lot, and you just love informing people.
You're right. I have all those, and we're working very diligently to get my podcasts, or at least a portion of them. I think we're on podcast number 35 right now, or something like that. They get at least the last 10 up there on my website. But there's a lot of radio programs that are on my website, national programs, and also your program. What you just said about me, thank you very much. I take it seriously. Thank you for the kind words. It reminds me of what happened today. I had 3 back-to-back appointments simultaneously, and the first appointment was investing $100K in metals. First time they ever invested in gold. They are out of Los Alamitos, California. The second appointment was a $200,000 appointment. They were out of California also. And the third appointment was a lady who's 91 years old from Connecticut, who's worth a little over $500,000, and she wants to invest about $100K into gold. And they all said something almost similar, identical to what you said. They said, thank you for not pressuring me. Thank you for all the education. Usually you don't get this even when I work with my financial planner or stockbroker. Some people said stockbroker, financial planner. I said, no, this is absolutely what we're all about. Because I believe this: if you empower people with knowledge and treat them with respect, people are smart enough to figure it out on their own, that they can see the need is pretty obvious to have a well-diversified portfolio, to have gold and silver as part of that plan.
Well, you can go on his website. It's landmarkgold.com. You can call him. They do free consultations all the time. It's 602-287-9200. Well, let's talk a little bit about today. What's going on in the market?
Well, I've been saying over the last month that the markets are going to be in a bull market in stocks and a bull market in gold, and certainly in metals. And here we are year to date, and we have some numbers. Gold is up 8.2%. These are yesterday's numbers, because I wasn't able to get the market closed before we got in the studio today because of the appointments. Silver is up 12.7% year to date. And all the hoopla about the Dow and the Trump rally, it's up 3.6%. Factoring in, the 150-point gain today, so let's say it's up 3.8%. So what does that mean? Gold is outperforming the Dow 2 times over. Silver is 3 times over. What I said in January on your radio show and many other national radio shows, I said, watch, this year you're going to see a bull market in stocks and gold at the same time. And people said, how can that be?
Because normally when the market goes up, then the gold goes down. They say, well, some people have said, well, how's David Fisher? And I said, I think he's doing pretty okay.
A lot of people say that, but
Right.
that is a myth about gold and stocks. They don't always work that. If everything was an absolute, then we could just have computers do all the trading in every single asset class, and everything called investing would be highly predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And investing is not predictable. It always involves risk and talent and education and moving your money around. And not all asset classes perform at the same time. Historically, there's not a lot of data to prove that says stocks, when they go up, gold goes down. There are times when that happens, but there's also times when they're in a bull market each. And so the fundamentals and the technicals, fundamentals being the debt, interest rate hikes, the amount of money that the Fed is printing, how much gold central banks are buying, things like that are fundamentals. Technicals are, here's the support level for gold, here's the support level for the Dow. They broke through these support levels going down, or they broke through the support levels going up through a support level. It's a technical thing. So right now, the technicals and the fundamentals are saying the same thing in both the Dow, or stocks, and also gold. They said the same thing in 2001 to 2007. We had a bull market in gold. We had a bull market in stocks. And yet people said during that period of time, how can this be? But it was true. In fact, gold outperformed the Dow from 2001 to 2007. It more than doubled. The Dow didn't. So we're going to see similar environment where I think we're going to be in a long-term bull market in both. But I think we're going to have some sort of a correction in the stock market, because the stock market historically corrects every 7 years or so, 7-8 years, and we've gone long past that 7-8 year period of time, because the fundamentals are saying we're not showing any signs of a correction.
Go ahead.
So the fundamentals are, we have a president who's a business president. He's trying to take away all the restrictions that the government has put in place to create business environment and a healthy economy. He's trying to lower corporate tax from 35% down to 15%. But he's going to get into some headwinds. He just got into one the other day, which is they were not able to pass repeal and replace Obamacare. And I'm not throwing stones at any president or any individual. But the fact of the matter is, the Republicans knew they were going to replace this for 7 years or greater, at least 6. They've been talking about replacing and repealing it. They had a lot of time to get this plan together, aside from what President Trump, and they weren't able to get the numbers together. They weren't able to do the two fundamental things: do cross-border buying of your insurance plan out of your state, and also lower your premiums, which are the two fundamental things that had to be put into that bill, and it didn't include that. So that's why it got pulled off the table. So President Trump is now moving on to the corporate tax. If he doesn't get this through, we're going to have a lot of problems in our government in its working. And we're going to have a pullback probably in the market, because the market in the Dow and stocks anticipate what might happen in the future. And they are anticipating good, healthy business practice environment that will be based upon what the corporations are going to be taxed.
Well, all of this is in the white paper. Is this come out yet?
The white paper is all brand new. It's
I know.
The 6th edition. It goes not necessarily one I just talked about, but it goes into the government seizing your money and the detail of the Dodd-Frank Act.
So we want everybody to call him and get that. He's going to give that to everyone that calls him. He does free consultations. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, I want to talk to you some questions that I have in my mind. Again, the number to call him is 602-287-9200. Check him out. It's landmarkgold.com.
if I traded it all, if I gave David.
Well, first of all, I got to say Ed, that we've been talking so much at the break because, I'm so interested in this when you talk, and every time you come on, it's the same for me. My eyes get really big, and I'm on like the edge of my seat. Right? And I asked you at the break, and I'm just going to be right off the bat with what I did. I said, I don't know if this is okay for me to say, David, because, it sounds like that gold and metals are a safe thing to do with our government, which I used the word discombobulated, and I was sort of like saying that sounds like a stupid word, because to me, that's what it sounds like. The government is really kind of discombobulated, that we need to do something safe and do something quick.
You're exactly right. Let's look at history. The last 8 years, they fought over a balanced budget for 8 years, every year. That's discombobulated to the extreme. And so here we are, March 16th, we blew through the debt ceiling. They didn't even talk about it in the news. I said, they're going to have to talk about this debt ceiling. Well, they didn't even you have to dig deep in the internet for anything on the debt ceiling. The debt is the so critical level. We as Americans think that America will be the same as always, just like when the Roman culture was Rome. Rome would never fall. And I'm not saying in my lifetime America is going to fall, but America will go through a change, just like Rome went through a change. And yet you couldn't convince any Roman citizen or outside citizen of Rome that Rome one day might not be the center of the world as they knew it financially and socially. America, if we don't get our debt in order, we're not going to be the center of the world financially and socially and economically, because foreigners see that we're discombobulated. This is why coming April 28th, the next key date, and CNBC just talked about this and said the word on the largest financial news station in the world, said if they can't get Congress to work together, the government will shut down on April 28th this year.
Oh, my God. Well, let me just say this, too. The more that you cannot wait for them to get undiscombobulated, if that's a word, because that's where I'm sitting. I listen to you and I say, I can't wait for them. I need to take care of myself now.
By the fact that they're $20 trillion in debt shares that they're not going to get their house in order. So you have to get your financial house in order. And I'm going to give away a freebie here today to help people get an incentive, not a pressure thing, but help people say, I believe in you, the listener, today. So for those callers who initiate a trade or IRA paperwork with Landmark Capital by April 30th of this year, I'm going to give them some time so they can get educated, get a packet from us, get some literature, see if this is something that makes sense for them. So if they do a trade for $25,000 of purchase or more, we will ship them, along with their metal, 10 free silver peace dollars as an added incentive to protect and grow their hard-earned money.
Well, they do free consultations. You can call them direct. It's 602-287-9200. Check them out. It's landmarkgold.com. Call them at 602-287-9200.
So we got coming up this government argument. It's going to be an argument. They couldn't even agree on, this healthcare bill. They have not yet in the last 8 years agreed upon a budget. I don't expect this to be any better. They're more working not together than ever before in history, our Congress. So this is why CNBC said on Monday, prepare yourself, we might have a government shutdown, because if they don't start to getting a plan by April 24th, we will probably have a government shutdown on April 28th. What does this mean? Well, it means they've already stopped recently because of the debt ceiling. They already stopped making payments into all the government officials' pensions and all postal workers' pensions. And all the listeners are applauding right now, okay? Because they're saying they're not worth it, I bet. And if you can see Carol right now, she's busting up laughing. I laugh too. I'm fine with all that. But it's not going to stop there if we don't get our financial house in order. Because what's happening behind the scenes is what I mentioned on your program. The Treasury announced, the last time they made this announcement was December of last year. We had the biggest sell-off of treasuries in the history of our country by foreigners. Foreigners that buy our debt, which supports this whole financial overspending that we do. We have a budget deficit. In other words, we spend more than we take in through taxes. And every month it's around $65 billion-ish dollars. That is close to $750 billion in 1 year. This is why if President Trump doesn't spend a penny more, we're going to have $3.5 trillion in 4 years, $7 trillion in 10 years minimum. But he wants to pass a $1 trillion spending bill. He's already passed a few spending bills. It's going to be $10 trillion in 8 years, just what President Obama did. But the interest rates are going up, so it's going to be more than that. So what's happening is the world sees we're not getting our financial house in order, so they're selling this thing called a treasury. Now, we issue a treasury, Carol, when we don't have enough revenue money coming in, when we have what you call a budget deficit of the $65 billion a month. So we issue a treasury. The treasury gets sold at auction on Wall Street, and usually a foreign entity called a central bank buys it. So think with me. They've been, since 2011, they've been backing away from buying it. Now they're selling it. This has no reflection on the value of the dollar. I'm not talking about the value of the dollar. I'm talking about the volume of buying versus selling. The tide went out. Now it's coming back in. The money's coming back to America. It's being sold from foreigners at a record high of $80.1 billion in December, 1 month. They're selling more. You should see Carol's eyes. They're rolling. Like, oh, wow, she said, okay? In 1 month, they sold more than what we need for them to buy. This is the backbone of our country, financially speaking. If we can't get foreigners to buy our debt, we have a severe problem. And this is what happened recently. Russia just set up, the Central Bank of Russia just set up a major office in Beijing last Thursday to create central and global trade. Beijing just 2 years ago set up their central bank, China, set up a major office in New York, a major office in London, and a major office in Sydney, and they're working on others because they want their currency to compete with the dollar. 5 years ago, not one trade globally was settled in the yuan. Now, 22% of the international trade, or trade around the world, is settled in the Chinese currency. We have to get our financial house in order. This is where if we don't, and these fights that we go through proves to the world we can't get this done. So this causes gold to go up. Foreigners see our problem. We're immune. We're like Rome. We're going to be the best for all the rest of the world.
So, in fact, I don't mean to interrupt you, David,
go ahead.
But in fact, this would be the best time to invest in gold.
That's why we're in a bull market in gold, while bull market in stocks, because the driving force is the biggest money called central banks. That's why we're doing this incentive to help people understand it for those callers who initiate a trade, either inside their IRA or outside, and they start the IRA paperwork with Landmark Capital, or they do a trade by April 30th of this year, 2017. Not only will they get their metals, but if they make a trade of $25,000 or more in purchase, we will also ship to them 10 free silver peace dollars as an incentive to protect and help them along the way.
His number is 602-287-9200. They do free consultations. You can get all the information of the white paper that he has. He also has your information on how to roll over your IRA, right? And all of that you'll get there as well. And all of this information, you can call him direct at 602-287-9200. You can also check out all of his videos and his radio shows, and everything is all of this is on your website, which is landmarkgold.com.
I've been talking in the past, and I'll briefly mention that this government, one of their plans to take care of the debt is to cause inflation with the Fed raising rates. That's where we're going to move into an inflationary environment, and gold is the best investment for that. It went up 500% in 5 years. But if they do the other thing called a bail-in, which has happened in 9 countries, listeners need to get this detailed report, the 6th edition. It goes in depth what the Dodd-Frank Act really is, what is not being changed, and how the legal ownership of our money no longer legally is ours, and that is still being in place. It also talks about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It has the same power and the same independency as the Fed, and it has so much power in any financial aspect. People need to get this report. Even if they don't invest in metals, this will be startling what they found out. I took it from a Fox News in-depth financial and political report. I was appalled at how much power they had. That's fresh off the press this year in about a month ago. So
talk about information giving you power. Today was really powerful for what you were saying. And I'll tell you something. This is information I think that everybody should have. Give them a call. They do free consultations, 602-287-9200. It's landmarkgold.com. Go ahead and tell them this again so they can hear it.
For those callers who call in, initiate a trade, or do IRA and start the process with paperwork with Landmark Capital by April 30th of this year, and they make a $25,000 purchase, Carol, or more, they're going to receive not only their shipment in metals, but 10 free silver peace dollars, an awesome coin, as an incentive to protect their hard-earned money.
Give them a call. It's a free consultation. Get all this information at 602-287-9200 and check them out. It's landmarkgold.com. Call today at 602-287-9200.